An alien emperor just declared humanity too dangerous to ignore. Admiral William Carter stood at the bridge of the USN Pathfinder, gazing at the holographic display of the massive vessel that had appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system 3 days ago. The alien ship was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, a sprawling structure of impossible geometries that seemed to bend light around it. "Any response to our communications, Lieutenant?" Carter asked. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez shook her head. "Nothing yet, sir. We've transmitted in every format we can think of." The bridge fell silent as a new alert sounded. Martinez's eyes widened. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It's translating through our systems somehow." The holographic display flickered, revealing a towering figure. Its body was covered in what appeared to be an iridescent exoskeleton, with 4 arms and a head featuring multiple compound eyes. When it spoke, its mandibles clicked rhythmically. "People of Earth, I am Emperor Vorthon of the Galactic Hegemony. For centuries, we have observed your kind from afar. Recent developments have forced my hand. Humanity has been declared too dangerous to ignore. Prepare for evaluation." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Well," Carter said finally, "I believe that qualifies as first contact." Within hours, the news spread across Earth. Government leaders gathered in emergency sessions while citizens crowded around screens, watching replays of the alien emperor's message. Scientists debated what evaluation might entail, while military forces worldwide went on high alert. On the Pathfinder, Carter called his senior officers to the conference room. "What do we know about their capabilities?" he asked his science officer, Dr. Samantha Wright. "Very little, sir," she replied, pulling up scans of the alien vessel. "Their ship appears to use propulsion technology we can't even begin to understand. No heat signature, no radiation emissions. It's as if they're sliding between the fabric of space itself." "Weapons?" Carter asked. "If they have them, they're like nothing we've seen before," answered Commander Paul Jackson, head of tactical. "But considering they traveled who knows how many light years to reach us, we should assume they could wipe us out if they wanted to." Carter nodded grimly. "So why announce themselves? Why not just attack if they consider us dangerous?" "Perhaps dangerous doesn't mean what we think it means," Dr. Wright suggested. "They called themselves a hegemony. That implies a political structure, not just a military force. Maybe they're more interested in containment or recruitment." The ship's communication system chimed. "Admiral," Lieutenant Martinez's voice came through. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. The United Nations Security Council is requesting your presence at an emergency meeting." Carter stood up. "Prepare my shuttle, and keep monitoring that alien vessel. If it so much as twitches, I want to know about it." As he left the conference room, Carter paused to look out a viewport at the distant stars. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, but it brought more questions than comfort. Whatever this evaluation was, Carter suspected it would determine the fate of humanity, and based on the limited interaction so far, he couldn't tell if the Galactic Hegemony planned to welcome Earth with open arms or subjugate it completely. One thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. 1 week after the transmission, strange vessels appeared in Earth's orbit. Unlike the massive Imperial ship, these were smaller, more utilitarian crafts that deployed hundreds of floating probes across the planet's surface. Dr. Catherine Reynolds stood in the middle of Times Square, watching one of the silver orbs hover silently above the crowd. As the head of Earth's newly formed Extraterrestrial Relations Division, she had been dispatched to observe. Her colleague, Dr. Alan Garcia, scanned the orb with specialized equipment. "It's definitely gathering data," he said. "Atmospheric composition, biological samples, electromagnetic readings, but it doesn't appear hostile." "Define hostile," Catherine replied dryly. "An alien emperor has declared our entire species dangerous and is now scanning every inch of our planet without permission." Alan smiled nervously. "Fair point." Catherine's secure phone buzzed with an incoming message. Her face paled as she read it. "What is it?" Ellen asked. "Reports coming in from around the world," she said quietly. "The probes are accessing our digital networks, downloading our entire internet, breaking through military firewalls like they don't exist. They're not just evaluating our planet," Ellen realized. "They're evaluating our civilization, and who knows what criteria they're using to judge us." Catherine added grimly. Similar scenes played out across the globe. In Moscow, government officials watched helplessly as a probe hovered over the Kremlin. In Beijing, military jets that approached the alien devices found their electronics mysteriously disabled. In rural areas, farmers reported probes taking soil samples and scanning livestock. The world held its breath, waiting for some sign of the aliens' intentions. At the United Nations, an emergency session had been in progress for 3 days straight. Admiral Carter had joined the discussions, bringing first-hand knowledge of the initial contact. "We need to establish communication," insisted the Secretary General. "Show them we're willing to cooperate." "With all due respect," Carter replied, "they haven't shown any interest in our attempts to communicate. These probes are taking what they want without asking." "Perhaps that is their form of communication," suggested the representative from India. "Learning about us before they decide how to talk to us." The debate was interrupted when all electronic screens in the room suddenly displayed the same image: the alien Emperor Vorthon. "Your attempts at defense are unnecessary," the Emperor stated, his translated voice echoing through the chamber. "The evaluation requires comprehensive understanding. Resistance will only extend the process." The Secretary General stepped forward. "Emperor Vorthon, we welcome peaceful contact, but your methods are causing fear among our people. Can we not establish a dialogue?" The Emperor's compound eyes seemed to study the human for a moment. "Dialogue requires mutual comprehension. When a parent speaks to an infant, does the infant truly understand? First, we must learn your capabilities." With that, the transmission ended, leaving the world leaders looking at each other in confusion and concern. Back in Times Square, Catherine watched as the probe suddenly changed color, pulsing with a soft blue light. Around the world, all probes did the same, as if synchronized. "What are they doing now?" Helene whispered. Before Catherine could answer, the probe projected a holographic display visible to everyone in the square. It showed Earth, then zoomed out to reveal a vast map of stars and planets, with various points highlighted in different colors. "I think," Catherine said slowly, "they're showing us where we fit in their universe." And it was clear from the display that Earth was a very small point indeed. 2 weeks into the evaluation, the probes suddenly deactivated and retreated to their ships. Humanity held its collective breath, waiting for the next move from the galactic hegemony. President Laura Wilson sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by her top advisors and military personnel. The tension was palpable. "We've mobilized every defensive asset we have," General Frank Miller informed her. "Not that it would make much difference if their technology is as advanced as it appears." "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," the president responded, just as the screens around the room flickered to life with another transmission. Emperor Vorthon appeared once again, this time seated on what appeared to be a throne composed of living metal. "People of Earth," the Emperor began, his translated voice resonating through the speakers, "our evaluation is complete. You have been deemed a Level 3 civilization on the hegemony scale, capable of interstellar travel, but lacking understanding of fundamental universal laws." The Emperor's compound eyes seemed to focus directly on President Wilson. "Normally, such civilizations are placed under protective observation until they mature or destroy themselves. However, humanity presents unusual qualities." He gestured with one of his 4 arms, and a holographic display appeared, showing human history, wars, technological advancements, art, literature, and scientific breakthroughs. "Your species possesses a rare combination of aggression, creativity, and resilience. This makes you dangerous, yes, but also potentially valuable." Therefore, I decree, Earth will be granted provisional membership in the hegemony, under supervision. The president leaned forward. What exactly does that mean, Emperor Vorthon? It means, President Wilson, that representatives of the hegemony will arrive to guide your integration. Prepare to receive them in 7 days. As the transmission ended, the room erupted in overlapping voices. Some advisors saw this as a victory. Humanity recognized as worthy of membership rather than conquest. Others worried about the implications of supervision and what rights Earth might lose. President Wilson raised her hand for silence. We need to prepare for these representatives. Dr. Reynolds, as head of extraterrestrial relations, I want you to assemble a welcome team. Diplomatic, scientific, and yes, some military presence. Dr. Catherine Reynolds nodded from her position at the table. Madam President, we should consider this an opportunity, if they're willing to share knowledge. They call this dangerous, Doctor, interrupted General Miller. This could be the first step in a more subtle form of conquest. Or it could be salvation, countered the Secretary of State. Our world faces climate crisis, resource depletion, political division. Maybe outside perspective is exactly what we need. The president stood up, ending the debate. We have 7 days to prepare. I want hourly updates on the alien ship's activities, and I want a global broadcast prepared. The people deserve to know what's happening. Later that evening, Catherine sat alone in her office, reviewing everything they'd learned about the hegemony. The term Level 3 civilization suggested a classification system based on technological and possibly social development. If humanity was Level 3, she wondered what level was the hegemony? And what would integration into such an advanced collective mean for Earth's future? Her computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from Admiral Carter aboard the Pathfinder, still monitoring the alien vessels. Dr. Reynolds, his message read, our sensors detect multiple smaller craft detaching from the main ship. They appear to be constructing something in orbit, sending images now. The attached photos showed what looked like the beginning of a structure, perhaps a space station or embassy. The hegemony representatives weren't waiting 7 days to begin their work. Integration, it seemed, had already begun. The landing site had been prepared in a remote area of Wyoming, neutral ground, away from major population centers. A delegation of world leaders and specialists waited as the hegemony shuttle descended from the clouds. Dr. Catherine Reynolds stood beside President Wilson, struggling to maintain her composure. After years of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, humanity was about to meet its first extraterrestrial diplomats. The ship, sleek and silent, touched down on the landing pad. A door materialized in its seamless hull, and 3 figures emerged. To everyone's surprise, only one resembled Emperor Vorthon. The other 2 were entirely different species. One appeared almost plant-like, with fibrous limbs and bioluminescent patches. The other was a floating crystalline structure that changed colors as it moved. Welcome to Earth, President Wilson said, stepping forward. The insectoid being inclined its head. I am Ambassador Krelvor, cousin to His Imperial Majesty. These are my colleagues, Ambassador Floam of the Verdant Collective and Ambassador Prisma of the Crystalline Concord. Catherine's scientific mind raced with questions. The hegemony wasn't just one species, but a coalition of different civilizations. We represent but 3 of the 27 member species of the galactic hegemony, Krelvor continued, seeming to read her thoughts. Each evaluated and eventually integrated, as you will be. And what exactly does integration entail? The president asked. Knowledge exchange, cultural understanding, technological advancement under supervision, and most importantly, the ambassador's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement, learning the rules. The delegation moved to a nearby conference facility built specifically for this meeting. Inside, holographic displays activated, showing images of distant worlds and strange civilizations. The hegemony spans 3 spiral arms of this galaxy, Ambassador Floam explained, its voice a melodic hum. translated through devices provided to the humans. We have existed for over 50,000 of your years. And in all that time, President Wilson asked, "You've never encountered humans before?" "We have observed," Ambassador Prisma responded, its crystalline form shifting to a deep blue. "But the hegemony has protocols about contact with developing species." General Miller, who had insisted on being part of the delegation, stepped forward. "Then why contact us now? What changed?" The three ambassadors exchanged looks that somehow conveyed meaning despite their alien features. "Your development of quantum communication," Ambassador Krelvor finally answered. 3 years ago, your scientists at the Geneva Particle Physics Laboratory succeeded in transmitting information instantaneously between 2 points. Catherine remembered the breakthrough. It had been celebrated as a step toward faster computer networks. "What you did not realize," Krelvor continued, "is that such transmissions create ripples in subspace, detectable across vast distances. You unknowingly announced your technological advancement to the galaxy. And this made us dangerous?" the president asked. "Potentially," Ambassador Floam responded. "The path from quantum communication to weapons that could destabilize spacetime is shorter than you might think. Several civilizations have destroyed themselves and damaged neighboring systems by pursuing such technology without proper understanding." Ambassador Prisma floated forward. "The hegemony was formed after the Collapse Wars, when 3 advanced species nearly annihilated all life in this sector. We exist to prevent such catastrophes from happening again." Catherine felt a chill. They weren't being invaded, they were being contained, for their own protection and that of others. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now," Ambassador Krelvor said, "we begin the true evaluation, not of your technology, but of your wisdom. Can humanity learn to wield great power responsibly? The future of your species depends on the answer." 1 month into Earth's provisional membership, humanity was beginning to understand the complexities of galactic politics. Representatives from various nations had been invited to attend orientation sessions at the newly established Hegemony Embassy, a structure that seemed to exist partially in another dimension, appearing larger inside than physically possible. Jack Bennett, a mid-level diplomat from the State Department, found himself assigned as a liaison to Ambassador Prisma, the crystalline entity. Despite having no discernible mouth, Prisma communicated through pulses of light that Jack's translator rendered into English. "The fundamental misunderstanding," Prisma was explaining, its form shifting from blue to violet, "is that your species views the universe as a frontier to be conquered. The hegemony views it as a garden to be tended." Jack nodded, taking notes. "And these rules we keep hearing about?" "The rules are not arbitrary restrictions," Prisma pulsed. "They are recognitions of natural law. For instance, Rule 7 prohibits tampering with temporal mechanics. This is not because the Emperor forbids it, but because doing so inevitably leads to causal collapse." Jack frowned. "Time travel? We're nowhere near that technology." "Aren't you?" Prisma shifted to a deep red. "Your physicists' work on quantum entanglement was approaching the threshold. Another decade, perhaps less." The revelation was startling. Jack wondered how many other scientific dead ends were actually paths humanity had been lucky not to pursue further. "There are technologies too dangerous for young civilizations," Prisma continued. "Just as you wouldn't give a child explosives to play with." Jack bristled slightly at the comparison. "So we're children to be guided." "All species are children at some point," Diplomat Bennett. Prisma pulsed gently. "The hegemony exists because too many civilizations destroy themselves, and sometimes others, before learning wisdom." Later that day, Jack joined other human representatives for a demonstration of approved technology sharing. Ambassador Floam was showing how certain verdant collective techniques could accelerate Earth's environmental restoration efforts. "This biofilter," Floam explained, displaying a small green pod, "can purify 10,000 gallons of contaminated water per day using only sunlight as energy." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, an environmental scientist, examined the pod with wonder. This could revolutionize our cleanup of polluted waterways. How does it work? Living organisms engineered to break down toxins, Floam replied. We will teach you to grow them, but not to modify their genetic structure. That would violate Rule 12. Jack noticed the pattern in these exchanges. The hegemony would share miraculous technologies, but always with limitations, boundaries humanity wasn't permitted to cross. In the evening, representatives from 20 nations gathered for a reception with the ambassadors. The mood was cautiously optimistic, though concerns remained about Earth's loss of technological autonomy. As Jack sipped his drink, he overheard Ambassador Krelvor speaking with President Wilson. Your people are adapting remarkably well, the insectoid diplomat commented. Much faster than the Proxima species did during their integration. We're motivated learners, the president replied diplomatically, though some of my constituents are concerned about these restrictions on our development. Krelvor's mandibles clicked. Understandable. But consider this historical fact. Of the 118 Level 3 civilizations, the hegemony has encountered 32 destroyed themselves within a century of achieving quantum technology. 27 caused significant damage to neighboring systems. Only 59 survived to become full members. The president's expression remained neutral, but Jack could see her concern. The rules, Krelvor concluded, are not chains, but guardrails along a dangerous mountain path. We have walked it before. We know where the precipices lie. Jack reflected on this metaphor as he gazed out at the night sky through the embassy's transparent dome. Humanity had always prided itself on charting its own course. Now they were being told some paths were too dangerous to explore. He wondered if Earth would accept these new boundaries, or if the human drive to push limits would ultimately put them in conflict with their new galactic overseers. Not everyone on Earth welcomed the hegemony's presence. 6 months after first contact, protests had become common in major cities around the world. Some feared alien domination. Others resented the technological restrictions imposed by the rules. Senator Harry Miller had become the face of the resistance, his Earth First movement gaining traction globally. His rallies drew thousands, all united by the slogan, "Humanity's destiny is our own." Susan Clark, an investigative journalist, had infiltrated one such rally in Chicago. The crowd's energy was electric, bordering on dangerous. They claimed to protect us, Miller shouted from the podium, but they're really controlling us. They fear what humanity might become. The crowd roared in agreement. Susan pushed her way through the crowd, approaching a group she'd been tracking, radicals who went beyond rhetoric. Their leader, a former military engineer named Ryan Peters, was discussing something in hushed tones. The emitter is almost ready, he was saying. Their shields operate on principles similar to our experimental phase technology. I found a resonance frequency that might disrupt them. Susan felt a chill. They were planning an attack on the hegemony embassy. Later that night, she debated her next move in her apartment. Reporting Peters to authorities might save lives, but it would also validate the fears of the Earth First movement, that humans were now informing on each other for alien masters. Her decision was interrupted by a knock at her door. When she opened it, she found Ambassador Floam, the plant-like entity, standing in her hallway. "May I enter, Ms. Clark?" its translator asked. "I believe we have matters of mutual concern to discuss." "How did you?" Susan began. "We've been monitoring the more extreme elements," Floam said, moving into her apartment. Its fibrous limbs rustled softly, just as we've been monitoring those who monitor them. Susan realized with a start that the hegemony had been aware of her investigations all along. "Why come to me?" she asked. "Because sometimes Floam's bioluminescent patches pulse gently. The best way to address opposition is not through force, but through understanding." The ambassador settled into a chair, somehow adapting its strange body to the human furniture. "We expected resistance," Floam continued. "Every species that joins the hegemony experiences a period of adjustment. Some individuals always fear change. Susan crossed her arms. It's more than fear. People feel like Earth's independence has been compromised. Has it not been? Floem asked simply. Your species was on a path that threatened not only yourselves but others. The hegemony could not allow that to continue. So Miller is right, Susan said. You two fear what we might become. Floem's luminescence dimmed slightly. Not fear. Concern. Humanity has remarkable potential, but also remarkable capacity for self-destruction. We have seen this pattern before. The ambassador produced a small device that projected a hologram, a beautiful blue-green world not unlike Earth. This was Delvos Prime, Floem said softly. Its people developed quantum technology similar to yours. They refused hegemony guidance, believing their destiny was their own. The hologram changed, showing the same planet cracked open like an egg, its surface molten. They created a weapon they could not control, Floem continued. 17 billion lives ended in a day. The resulting spatial distortion made the entire system uninhabitable for 10,000 years. Susan stared at the devastated world, speechless. We do not wish to control humanity, Miss Clark. We wish to prevent such tragedies, but we cannot force acceptance. Each species must choose integration or isolation. And if we choose isolation, Susan asked, then the hegemony will withdraw after ensuring your technology cannot threaten other worlds. Your development will be monitored from afar, but you will progress at your own pace and face your own consequences. As Floem left, Susan sat alone with this new perspective. The story she had planned to write suddenly seemed different. Was the Earth First movement fighting for freedom, or endangering humanity's future in the galactic community? 1 year after first contact, Earth had changed dramatically. Hegemony-approved technologies had revolutionized medicine and clean energy production. The global economy had been reshaped by the knowledge that Earth was part of a vast interstellar community. But tensions remained. The Earth First movement had gone underground after a failed attack on the hegemony embassy. Senator Miller had disappeared from public life, though his rhetoric continued to spread. Dr. Catherine Reynolds, now serving as Earth's Chief Integration Officer, was summoned to a private meeting with Ambassador Krulvor. The Emperor sends his regards. Krulvor began without preamble. He believes it is time for humanity's first test. Catherine raised an eyebrow. Test. I wasn't aware our provisional membership included examinations. All new member species face trials to assess their readiness for further integration, Krulvor explained. Yours will begin tomorrow. When Catherine pressed for details, the ambassador simply said, You will know when it begins. The next morning, every communication device on Earth simultaneously activated with an emergency broadcast. Emperor Vorthon appeared on screens worldwide. People of Earth, he announced, a rogue faction has deployed a quantum destabilizer in your solar system. This device will cause your sun to prematurely nova in 72 hours. The hegemony fleet has been temporarily disabled. Catherine stared in horror at her screen. This is your test, the Emperor continued. How you respond will determine your place in the hegemony. All restrictions on technology transfer are temporarily lifted. Relevant data has been uploaded to your networks. We await your solution. As the broadcast ended, scientists around the world discovered detailed information about both the destabilizer and potential countermeasures. Technology far beyond human development, but apparently not beyond human understanding. In the crisis center hastily established in Geneva, Catherine gathered Earth's brightest minds. We have 3 days to save our planet, she told them. Let's get to work. The first day passed in a blur of activity. Quantum physicists struggled to understand the principles behind the destabilizer, while engineers began designing a potential counter-device. World leaders set aside political differences to coordinate resources. Jack Bennett arrived from Washington, having been recalled from his diplomatic post. Is this really happening? He asked Catherine. Or is it some kind of simulation? Does it matter? She replied. If we don't respond as if it's real, We fail either way. By the second day, a plan was forming. The data provided by the hegemony suggested that a properly calibrated field generator could neutralize the destabilizer's effects if they could get it close enough to the device, which was orbiting dangerously near the sun. Admiral Carter volunteered the Pathfinder for the mission. "We've integrated some hegemony tech into her systems," he explained. "She's the only ship we have that might survive that close to the sun." The challenge was daunting. Not only did they need to build a device using technology they barely understood, but they also had to deploy it in one of the most hostile environments in the solar system. As the final hours approached, a surprising figure joined the effort: Ryan Peters, the former Earth First radical. After his planned attack had failed, he had been imprisoned but now offered his expertise. "I still don't trust the hegemony," he told Catherine bluntly. "But I won't let Earth burn because of my suspicions." His knowledge of resonance fields proved invaluable in refining the counter device. With 24 hours remaining, the modified Pathfinder prepared to launch. The counter device, a shimmering sphere of technology that seemed to exist partially in another dimension, was secured in its cargo bay. Catherine watched the launch from Mission Control, along with representatives from every major nation on Earth. Whatever their political differences, all eyes were fixed on the same goal: survival. As the Pathfinder accelerated toward the inner solar system, Catherine couldn't help but wonder, was this truly a test of humanity's scientific capabilities? Or was the hegemony testing something else entirely? Their ability to unite in the face of existential threat. The final hours of the crisis found a transformed Earth. Ancient rivalries had been set aside as nations pooled resources. Scientists collaborated across borders, working with hegemony data to develop a response to the quantum destabilizer. Aboard the USN Pathfinder, now retrofitted with hegemony-derived technology, Admiral Carter led a desperate mission to the destabilizer's location, just inside Mercury's orbit. The ship's crew included specialists from 20 nations, including Dr. Alan Garcia and, surprisingly, Ryan Peters, the former Earth First radical whose engineering genius had proven invaluable. Approaching target coordinates, Lieutenant Martinez announced, "Destabilizer visible on scanners." The device appeared on their view screen, a small, unassuming object that pulsed with ominous energy. Already, the sun's surface showed disturbing patterns of activity. "Deploy the counterfield generator," Carter ordered. Peters initiated the sequence they had developed. "Field forming. But it's not stabilizing. The resonance is off." "We're missing something," Alan said, frantically reviewing the data. The hegemony information suggested this should work. In that moment, Catherine Reynolds, monitoring from Earth, had a realization. She opened a direct channel to the ship. "It's a test of more than our scientific ability," she transmitted. "Remember what Ambassador Prisma said about the rules. They're not restrictions but recognitions of natural law. We're approaching this from a human technological perspective." "What are you suggesting?" Carter asked. "The solution isn't to counteract the destabilizer with another device. It's to understand why it works and address the underlying principles." Alan's eyes widened. "The quantum harmonics. They're not random. They're following a pattern similar to organic systems. The sun isn't just a ball of plasma," Peters realized. "In quantum terms, it's almost alive." Working feverishly, they recalibrated their approach, treating the star not as an object to be fixed, but as a system to be healed. The counterfield generator was modified to work with the sun's natural processes rather than against them. As the clock ticked down to zero, the modified field engaged. For a terrible moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, gradually, the destabilizer's pulsing weakened and the sun's disturbed patterns began to normalize. On the Pathfinder's bridge, exhausted cheers broke out. Hours later, Emperor Vorthan appeared in a global broadcast. "Humanity has passed its first test," he announced. "Not merely through technological prowess, but through understanding. You demonstrated not only intelligence but wisdom, recognizing that the universe is not something to be dominated, but to be comprehended. The Emperor's compound eyes seemed to gleam with something like approval. Your provisional status is hereby upgraded. Earth is now recognized as a Level 4 civilization and a junior member of the Galactic Hegemony. In the aftermath, as humanity celebrated its new status, Catherine met with the 3 hegemony ambassadors. Was there ever really a rogue faction? She asked directly. Ambassador Krelvor's mandibles clicked in what she now recognized as amusement. What matters is not whether the threat was real, Dr. Reynolds, but that your response to it was genuine. And if we had failed, she pressed, then we would have intervened. Ambassador Flom assured her. The hegemony tests, but does not destroy. The Emperor was correct about your species, Ambassador Prisma pulsed, shifting to a warm golden hue. Dangerous, yes, but also remarkable. We look forward to seeing what humanity will contribute to the hegemony in the centuries to come. Catherine gazed up at the night sky, now looking at the stars with new eyes. Humanity's journey among them had only just begun. 2 days later, in the Oval Office, President Wilson met with Jack Bennett and Catherine to discuss the path forward. The hegemony has offered to establish a learning center on Mars, Catherine explained, a place where humans can study approved technologies under supervision. And in return, the president asked. They want cultural exchange, Jack replied. Art, music, literature. Apparently, our creativity is highly valued. The president smiled. So we are dangerous, but also interesting. Outside the White House, crowds gathered peacefully. Many carried signs welcoming Earth's new status. Even former Earth First supporters had been sobered by how close they had come to destruction, and impressed by humanity's response without hegemony intervention. Susan Clark published her story about the crisis, earning a global audience. Her conclusion resonated with millions. Perhaps what makes humanity dangerous, our curiosity, our determination, our willingness to push boundaries, is also what makes us worthy of the stars.